All right, everybody, welcome back to another special episode of the Stronger You Project number 4. I am here with a very special man. You know what? His name is Michael Fabber, and I've never met him in person, but on my personal development journey, I've met a lot of really good guys online. And a lot of people actually, when I say that to them, I meet a lot of guys online, they kind of give me a weird look. But this guy I met online, really good dude. He actually would check in on me when I was at the Ronald McDonald House for the birth of my daughter. He would actually check in on me just to see how I was doing, and I barely even knew the guy. And it's a pleasure to have him on the show. Michael Favor, the business brain behind the Beard One of the most sought after business strategies and founder of Unleash Now. Michael Faber is the business coach for those who want to make the world a better place, live their life they desire, and create those that want to make the world a better place. Oh, and leave a legacy that will impact them forever. He has guided the majority of leaders with the most transformational and positive communities impact across the globe. He is well known for creating figures in courses, events, masterminds, memberships, retreats, books, and even a deck of cards. Michael Faber's life's purpose is to end suicide and self-injurious behavior, and he works hard every day to make sure that becomes reality. He does this through several businesses he owns and all the clients he serves. Thank you, Michael Faber, for coming on the show. I know you are at an event right now, but thank you for taking out the time to join me today.
For you, brother, I wouldn't miss it, man. I'm honored and privileged to be here. So thank you.
Ah, perfect. Well, hey, you know what? You do a lot of stuff, but one thing I think my viewers, if you're listening to this, you need to go over and check the podcast because this man's beard is insanity. It is beautiful. I almost want to comb it every time I see it. It looks fantastic. Well, Michael, I know you have a story behind what you do. You want to end suicide and self-injurious behaviors. Now, what led you to that
But,
point of, you know, being so passionate about doing that?
I think it's like a tally of things, right? Like they start adding up. I wasn't the smartest kid. I failed third grade, right? So I was pretty down there in the education level. But I think it's like, I don't care what you believe. You can believe in God, the universe, tree, dirt. Like, I don't care what you call it. Um, I think it'll start with whispering to you, right? Like, psst, pay attention, psst, right? And I don't hear great. So I don't pay attention to whispers much, even though I whisper a lot.
Yeah.
And it gets louder and louder and louder and louder until you either listen to it or it's too late to be able to listen to it, right? And I think my life is like the accumulation of right about it's being too late to listen, I listen. Right. And I think that's what led me down this journey. It's like when I was 20 years old, I was facing more time in jail, 20 plus years. I found out I was going to be a dad and I got shot at in the same week.
Oh,
Right, same week. I beat my last case. Thought I was going to be a dad and got shot in the same week. That was whatever you believe in, saying pay attention. Right, and I did, and I changed my life because I was like, I want to be dad. I don't want to be dead or in jail for my kid. My dad died when I was a teenager. I wanted to at least be here for some of my daughter's life as much as I could be, and
hmm
not add to the reason I wasn't. And it made me go more straight and narrow. Right,
okay.
and then, but in third grade, my brother's one of the 22 a day that took his own life. Right, that served the country of the United States. He took his own life in the early 90s. In my family, we were very militant, so we weren't hurt. We were angry
Mm.
because we were men. Right, men weren't hurt. We were angry, man. Right, because anger is manly. Hurt, not so manly. Right, and that made me rebel, and it made me mad, and it made me have this chip on my shoulder. It made me, because I could never tell you how I felt. I had to express it in anger form. And that lasted literally until I was 30, right? And in 2011, one of my best friends took his own life. And that's kind of when like my reality shattered, because I had this fake reality that I was like a man's man. I was tough as nails, like I was that dude.
hmm
And all of a sudden, like all the hurt I had erupted. Like I couldn't maintain that facade anymore. And I became like a suicidal maniac. I was on the beach in Lewis, Delaware, with a gun in my mouth, wanted to end it. Gun wouldn't go off. A picture of my daughter fell in my pocket. It was the second time my daughter saved my life. and I'm her dad. I'm not. She's not supposed to be saving my life. I'm supposed to be saving hers, right? So I'm like, man, like, what am I doing? Right? And I heard this line from Jim Rohn, and he's like, "You got to go find yourself, brother, because you're out there, right?" So I'm literal, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm out there. I need to go find me." So I like hitchhiked across the United States. Didn't take any money. Didn't take my car. Nothing. Just hitchhiked. Had a missing
Really?
person report. Yeah, had like a missing person report for me for like a month, right? And
Yeah.
that was where, at the end of that, it's kind of where I figured out like I it wasn't me. I was there. I wasn't behind a tree or under a rock or in a bush. It was more I had to be willing to listen to what my heart was about and what was passionate to me and what was the desire for me to be able to figure out my purpose in this thing. Because then when I could live in purpose, I can find peace. And what I was missing for all those years was peace.
Now, was that peace with, your inner child? Was that peace with when you were 20? That was that living with peace in your 30s when you were just lost and suicidal?
I think it was a peace with all that happened before that date. And it was the pain, the problems, all the situations that arose. It was all worth it then because I was willing to find purpose in it. Right. It's like one of the biggest things that I try to tell people is like, we always talk about fair, right? I'm sure you can tell me a million things about your life that is not fair. 100% you can. But fair is a perspective that doesn't really truly exist in the world. Right. So it's like we got to stop figuring out why something's fair or arguing if it was fair or not, or trying to figure out even if it was fair or not. Because there's going to be a bunch of things that aren't fair for you and every single person. And it's how can we make this worth it? And I think when we do that, we find purpose in it. And then it gives us an avenue of acceptance. And that's an avenue of peace.
I like to talk a lot about acceptance and forgiveness, and I learned about acceptance and forgiveness in rehab, the power of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I learned about it
Mm-hmm.
again in life coaching. And then when I hear it twice, it kind of really sunk in, right? Like I went through rehab, I did what I did, but then I heard about it again. I'm like, oh, well, maybe this actually makes sense. So when you talk about acceptance, what were the pieces in your life that you had to accept? Because was it events, experience that happened to you? Was it losing somebody? Was it yourself doing something?
I think all of the above, man. I think like one, I had to accept things that happen in my life and stop trying to one, use that as a crutch, right? Or two, make it where my whole life was something because of that thing, right? And it was give myself the power again to create more, right? I think part of it is because of moments. I think a part of it is, right, like acceptance of what is, where we are, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think one of the biggest things, one of the biggest problems we fall into is that we argue so much about how we got here that we don't figure out how to move from here, right? And it was like, I'm like, yo, I need to figure out, I don't want to be here anymore. How do we move from here? Rather than trying to understand how we got here, trying to post blame, even trying to take accountability. Like I believe accountability is a huge thing,
Mhm.
right? Like Jocko Willink, extreme ownership. Like I'm that to the T. Like anybody does anything, I'm like, oh, that's my fault. Right? Oh, they hurt me. I should have let them that close. Right? Like whatever it is, it's me. Right? Own it. I don't know if that's necessarily the healthiest thing either, but I think it's like I think there's like this dance, like this equation to it. And I know we can't go forward when we're stuck in the past.
Mm. Mhm.
And my big thing is like, how long are you going to let whatever it is that you hold against you cost you? Right. And I talked about that. Like you said, you're in coaching, right? I talk about that with clients or potential clients. How long is that bad investment going to cost you? Yeah, you might have found the wrong coach. Good news. Whatever you paid, what was the cost to find that wasn't your person?
Mhm.
Right now, you have the opportunity to find your person. But if you say no, I don't like coaching now because of that, well, that's costing you still. It costs you more than the amount. It costs you more than the time you spend because you're still spending that time. Right. So my big thing is like make it all worth it for you.
I like that.
And and I think that's a key to this. It's like whatever happened, make it worth it. Make your
Hmm.
life worth it. Make the mission worth it. Make your meaning worth it.
Well, yeah, like Viktor Frankl always talks about the guys that survived, found purpose in everything, right? They're living for a purpose, right? They believed in a greater purpose, and everyone searches for that purpose. They search so high, they search high and low, and I was one of those guys that was very lucky that I fell into my purpose. My purpose came from 16 years of substance use. My purpose came from being suicidal and depressed. And that sounds like your purpose kind of came from that too, being able to see what happened in your life, accept it, make the change, and then help others make that change. So I had a question for you. When you said that you were young, and this is one of the stigmas that hate the most is the man up stigma. And people, hey, you gotta man up, you gotta man up. Now, I heard you talk about that briefly, where you grew up in a militant house, you said, and you probably had to, obey the rules. I don't know. Do you talk about your feelings? Like, I know when I said at 24 years old, you got to man up, you got to go to work, you got to pay your bills. I said that to myself. And even when I was working at the mill and I was super depressed, I might tell myself to man up, and then my internal dialogue would fire. And then I'm just beating myself up the whole time. What's your thoughts on that?
Bro, 100%. And that's one of my big things now is like we host 2 men retreats a year. I'm part of the Brotherhood, which is a men's community. Um, and I still use that term, but it's changing the programming that's behind it.
Hmm.
It's like now I'm like, man up, tell them how you really feel. This made me feel this way, right? Like before it was man up, you don't talk about how you feel. Like forget how you feel. Right. It's like no longer did I want to I didn't want to just take that away or not use it. I wanted to change how it's viewed because man up cost us a lot of men's lives.
Yeah.
Man up cost us sober minds, right? Like man up has cost us a lot. So it's we have to no longer because we're the generation that knows it and we know both sides of it. That we have to be the ones that change how it's viewed. Like man up means take the armor off, man. You're an alpha dog, but you don't have to always show like you're the alpha dog that's out of control alpha or that's ego alpha, right? Because they're different names. Right? Like you can be an alpha. Like I respect you more as an alpha if you're like, yo, listen, like sometimes, man, that hurts. Right? I'm like, bet, dude, that's respect, right? Like, because you got it enough to explain it,
Yeah.
right? Like now we have to make that a level of like of growth of achievement that you can be as a man and do that, right? And that's a strength. I think for so long we used man up as a way to cover up strength to pretend strength. It means how many bullets can I take and still move forward, right? I think one of the things is we're gonna have to take some. Like life's gonna throw us some things. Life's gonna get us some. All right, and some people are gonna throw some things at us, and we're gonna have to take some of that. That's gonna be some humble pie, right? But we don't have to inflict ourselves with them. That's the one we control. We don't have to inflict ourselves. And I think for so long we were inflicting ourselves with that thought process
Hmm.
that it held us in a certain way from being able to be fully us, right, and move forward fully. So
Hmm.
I hope that changes.
Yeah, for sure. I did a mental health presentation with a female after school program, and one of the questions they asked me at the end were, "What do you do with guys that are struggling when they say man up?" Because one of them had a friend come up and say, "Man, I'm really struggling," and she's like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" He's like, "Well, it's gonna man up." She's like, "Well, what do I say to that?" And I'm like, "What do you really say to that?" So I was like, "You know what? Ask him this: How is that working for you?" You keep your feelings down inside. You're getting irritable. You're getting angry. Um, are you getting the things done that you need to be done? How are you around your family? Because I know what personally for me, when I kept all my feelings in, I was getting burnt out. I wasn't any good to be around. I wasn't any fun to be around. I was irritable, man. Like The longer you keep it in, it's going to eat you from the inside out. So when you tell yourself to man up, ask yourself, how is that actually working for me? I want to go back to talking about a little bit about your father. You're talking about your dad was in the military, your military family. How was your relationship with your dad growing up?
My relationship with my dad growing up was rough. Um, uh, it took me a long time to understand this. My dad did the best with what he knew and with how he knew, right? And it took me a long time to be able to say that.
Mhm.
He did the best with what he knew and how he knew to raise a man. And it's not necessarily the way I would do it, but I know different things, and I grew up at a different time, right? And I was raised differently. It Me and my dad didn't have the best relationship. I actually didn't talk to my dad for a little bit before he died, and then 6 months before he passed, we actually got together over a burger at Jim Dandy's, and we were talking about my mom having health issues and that she wanted me and him to have peace before she passed. It's crazy is my mom's still here. My dad was like a mountain. I never thought he would die. And then I randomly one night get a call from a hospital saying my parents are there and I need to come right away. And I think it has to do with my mom. And it was my dad. Right. And it was like mind blowing. It was like shook you to the core when you think someone will live forever and they're not. Right. And it was crazy. But I'm always very thankful now that I got 6 months before he died, that we were cordial, that we were cool with one another.
Mhm.
And you know what's crazy? As much as I held against him for as long as I did, remember I told you at 20 years old I was facing more time in jail than I was alive, right?
Mhm.
I beat that case because before my dad died, he took all the testimonies and he highlighted all the differences. So it made it where they knew someone was lying, but that made it where they were all considered to be lying because someone had to not be telling the truth, so all of them were not telling the truth. And that made their only evidence skewed. And that's how I ended up getting off. And I didn't know that till after because I thanked my lawyer, and my lawyer was like, "Don't thank me. Your pop sent this to me." And I always thought that was nuts. That I was like, "Damn, I couldn't even thank him that his last gift was giving me another chance at life." Right? And that
Totally.
how cool is that? Right?
Man,
Like,
that's
wow.
super powerful. But just goes to
Yeah,
show
there's
you the
no
importance of mending those relationships.
facts. And I think also like one, I'm not putting this all on my pops. I was a pain in the ass troublemaker kid, right? Like I wasn't a good kid. Um, so I wasn't easy. I didn't make it easy. Um, Neither did my brothers. So I have 3 older brothers, and I always said like I got to be the worst one young and the best one old. Right? It was really weird. It was like I topped both poles. Um, it's like if you ask my mom who's the worst kid, she'll say me, and if she'll say if you ask her who's the best adult, she'll probably say me. So it's very weird how I get both awards. Um, but I he gave me the opportunity to do that. So for that, I'm forever thankful. But it was rocky. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. It took me a long time too. It took me a long time to get over the. I wish I knew if my dad was proud of me.
Mm.
Right? It's like one of the reasons I tell my daughter all the time. I'm so proud of her. I'm like, wow, I'm so proud of you, right? Like you went your way. You decided to live your life. Like, I'm so proud of that. Like, you got straight A's. You could have went anywhere. You went for writing because you love writing. Like, I love that you said, I'm going to take a semester off to follow my love in writing scripts for video games because I love doing it, right? Like, I absolutely love that. Like, and I tell her all the time, like, I'm so proud of you for that because it could have been so easy to fall into whatever clique you fell into that you felt accepted by, right? And to go and do your own thing and forge your own path that young, I know I wasn't that. So, and I know that, and I'm sure you know this too from our lives. This could all be taken in a minute, man. All of this, everything can change like that. And I know that. I always say I'm living on borrowed time. I said I was supposed to die over 20 years ago. So I'm here. I'm lucky, right? Like this is extra for me. Whenever it ends, it ends. And I'm thankful, right? Like for the time I got. But I want her to have certain things said that I necessarily didn't get said. because I don't want her to live with the same what if or wonder that I had to live with.
Yeah. Oh, and I really like that, and I like to tell my son I'm proud of him too, right? Sorry.
That's dope.
Um,
No,
I let him know when he did a good job. I love
hell
to
yeah.
do that, right? And how many athletes have you ever seen out there or heard of that are just like, or people that just like, I just wanted my dad to tell me he's proud of me. I've
Dude, I
listened
used
to
to play
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I've listened to podcasts. That's one of the things I did is I listened to podcasts of guys like me and what they did to get better. And a lot of them had, I just wish my dad would have said, I'm proud of you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I used to play a basketball game and I would do pretty good. I had pretty good numbers. I was all right at basketball. And I would have like 3 turnovers. My dad would be like, yeah, I don't care about all the other stuff. Why do you have 3 turnovers? I'd be like, damn, like, all right. And I understood now what he was doing because so many other people would sing my praise.
Yeah.
I'm like, but I didn't care about their praise.
Fair.
I wanted his praise, right? But he didn't know that. He thought everybody else is boosting my head. He needs to keep me realistic. He needs to keep me on earth. So I keep working hard.
Hmm.
So it was now I can understand that. But at the time, I was just like, what's this dude problem with me? Like, why doesn't he like me? Right?
Yeah, I see there's the
So yeah,
difference, right? It's a kid wouldn't see it that way, but as an adult, we can look back. We have the opportunity to look back on our lives and we can pinpoint our feelings, where things have changed, where things, oh, we should have done better, we should have done this and made that decision. So maybe it's up to us as fathers to be like this, this is what I said to Mike the other day. He's like, I'm how am I good at baseball, Dad? I'm like, yeah, you're a good batter. What? Like, yeah, you're a really good batter. You can get on base. But I'm like, Tail, where does the ball go when it's hit to you? Uh, so I was trying to tell him the difference between good at being a good baseball player and getting on base because he can get on base a lot. So I'm trying to do both, right? I want to tell him that he's good at stuff when he does good, but make sure though that he knows that there's still other stuff to work on, right? So I think it's up to us to, give our kids those praise and but still let them know there's always time for improvement.
dude, I love that. I always do this approach. Like I'm like, you're good. Like, you're good at that. I'm like, do you want to just be good at it or do you want to be great at it? Because if you're good at just being good at it, you're there. Like, don't worry about it. You're good, right? But if you want to be great at this thing, it's going to take more time,
Mhm.
right? And then when you get great at it, you want to be a legend at this thing because good keeps it going. Great helps win, and legends they never die. They transform the sport or the thing, right? Like Michael Jordan's a legend. LeBron's going to be a legend. Like Wilt's a legend. They never die, right? They just keep going, and we're always going to talk about them. And it's like talk about people in the personal growth journey, right? Like Jim Rowan's, uh, what is it? Brian Tracy, right? Zig Ziglar, right? Tony Robbins will be one, right? Like you name them, they're legends in the space.
Mhm.
Good keeps it going, great makes you win, and legends live forever. And you get to determine by what you do and what you put in what level you'll fall at.
My hockey coach should say, Justin, there's a difference between good and great. Good show up every other day, but great shows up every day. Decide what you want to be. I chose good.
Right? Right? Think
Well, I
like
chose a
Kobe
substance.
Bryant.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, right. We all have, brother. Right? Like Kobe Bryant, like he said, what was the secret to you being better than everybody? He said 2 hours.
Hmm.
And they were like, what? And he's like, I woke up 2 hours for everybody else. I got an extra workout in. He's like, you think that one day, that's only one workout. But think of that over a 40-year career. Think about it over, or a 20-year career. Think about that over playing the game for 35 years. Add 2 hours up, 35 years,
Hmm.
right? And all of a sudden, that's an astronomical number because the compound effect is real. Right. And it's like, and I think about that with marketing. I think about that with messaging. I think about that with events. I think about that with speaking. And I'm like, I'm going to get up before them. I'm going to do one extra thing. one extra thing over and over and over, because that's going to be the thing that, even though it sounds boring, that's going to be the thing that separates us. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and well, that's what I had to do with my recovery. I had to go one more day, and one more day, and one more day, and now it's compounded into almost 5 years sober. No, now, when you were on your spiral or your journey, let's say, were you using substances a lot?
Oh hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used a lot of pills. I was into some heavy drugs. Um, I used things to not feel certain things and to feel other things, or to fill voids that I thought it was filling, but it was really just distracting me from. Right? I did all that, of course. Yeah.
What what was what helped you to change that? And are you completely sober now?
The only thing I will partake in is a sweet bourbon every now and then.
Mhm.
That's the only thing I'll partake in. I cut mostly every alcohol out of my system and all drugs. I won't even partake in wine anymore, and then of that nature, just because I'm like, I keep knocking it out. Bourbon, we're actually started a bourbon company, so that's why I'm
Mm.
like, all right. So I said I gave myself like a year and a half grace of promoting this bourbon and enjoying it with people, and then I'll be off that as well. So I'm not 100% there yet, but I'm working on it. Um, what I had to do was stop letting it have control over me.
And what did you do for
Uh,
that?
oh God, baby steps, brother. Well, first, my life was a train wreck, and I figured that out. That it wasn't um, just because of a feeling. It was because I wouldn't acknowledge the feeling and embrace the feeling, and then do anything to conquer it. I was medicating it, right? So, and then what happens? I don't know from you, but from my life experiences, when doing that, what one pill used to help, now I needed two pills,
Mhm.
and what two pills used to help, now I needed three pills, right? And it's because our bodies start building towards that stuff, and we're like, yo, I need more than that to get the feeling I was trying to get. And what happened was I actually had to start really doing the inner work to face the demons and monsters within me, and the hurt and the tears and all the stuff I didn't want to look at. I actually had to look at it. I had to talk to someone about it, which I never wanted to do. Right? I had to acknowledge it was real, which I didn't want to do. Right? It was facing me, and for a long time that was a hard thing.
Yeah, you know what? It's so true. And I'll go back to something you said. You said you had to stop blaming people. And one of the one of the reasons I actually became a speaker was one of the guys that's going to be at one of your events, Trent Shelton. And I was like, man, this is so long ago. I've watched one of his videos. I'm like, I want to do that. And now I remember he said something that says, blame and complain or accept and change. And for so long, I blamed everybody else for my drinking problem. I'm like, I need this because of this. I need this because of this. Why would you want me to quit drinking? It helps my depression. Like that was my excuse. That was my viewpoint. That was my mindset. I'm like, you're not changing me. Only I can change me, and I don't want to change. And then all of a sudden, I started to realize that everything that alcohol, that drug was giving me was fake, and everything it started to take from me was very real. So then I had to do that inner work and be like, why? And ask myself why. They talk about the power of why. Find your why, but ask yourself why. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? What's the reason behind that? And that's how I started my personal development journey, my doing that inner work, which is the most uncomfortable I have ever been. Besides apologizing to people for some of the stuff I've done. So what was your turning point? Like where you said you're 30, you had a gun, so your daughter would have been 10 at that time?
Right around there.
What
Yeah,
was your
9, 10.
turning point?
Dude, that I was sitting on a stoop in Mobile, Alabama. I don't know if you've ever been to Mobile, Alabama.
I've been to
Um,
Seattle.
nice. The parts of Mobile I were in weren't the nicest. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
And I was on a stoop at the Mobile Inn, which was like a trailer. They had like different trailers out there divided into fours. You had to like walk through someone's room to like get to the bathroom. Like it was real weird, right? And at this point, remember, I have successful businesses. Like outside looking in, you'd think I made it, right? Like I had big houses, I had multiple cars, I had Cadillac Escalades. I had a Cadillac. You want to make fun of me? I had a Cadillac Escalade. We called it Cane because it was white, right? I was very mature, and I had a custom license plate that was Faves 22. I had spinning rims, right? So if you were moving, they would look like they weren't moving, and if you
Oh,
stopped,
man,
they looked like they were moving.
to be fair, when those things came out, they were pretty popular.
Fire. They were fire, right? I had 22s and spinning rims. I had six 12-inch subwoofers in the back, right? So it was a very uncomfortable ride. It really bumped, right?
Mhm.
Um, Also, impressive part, all running off a factory deck, and it would give you a heart attack if you sat in it long enough because it would throw your heartbeat off. Like that was impressive. Anyway, that's not even the worst part. All tinted out too. I wore matching velour suits, like Converse velour suits, every day with matching Timberlands and a matching Kango hat. And here's the thing: I didn't have a friend good enough to be like, "Bro, you look fucking ridiculous." Right? Like you look like a fucking clown, man. Stop wearing this. Right? Like, what are you doing? Right? Like, stop trying so hard. Everybody should have saw I was trying too hard, right? Including myself, but I did. Right. So from the outside world, I look like I'm doing good. I have a restaurant and bar, I have a landscape company, I have a property management company at the time. I'm investing in real estate, right? I have multiple properties. I'm like killing. We just bought like a couple of years before that, we just bought up over $1 million worth of properties, right? Like, and bought them, like didn't owe anything, right? Like bought them, had a couple rentals that we were doing, like the rent for mortgage type thing, right? Like you get more rent than mortgage, you make a little money while not owing anything. It's beautiful, right? I was like, bro, I'm on top of the world. You would think I was miserable. Like I was the fakest mofo you've ever met. I lived up to my initials. I'm a real MFer. You know what I mean? Michael Fabber. Um, and but I was sitting on a stoop, dude, and I just got done like riding the back of trucks and eating out of people's plates that they ate out of and eating out of containers and trash cans and stuff because I was hitchhiking a little bit and trying to figure out my way. And that's not like a feel bad for me thing, but it kind of humbled me to where I needed to be able to really evaluate my life. And yeah, I was sitting on the stoop and I thought about something a basketball coach told me when I was in middle school. It was Coach Darby. He was a great dude. Tough, but great dude. Our generation coaches were very tough because they were allowed to be, right? Now you're not allowed to be like they were, right? And thank God to a degree, right? The But he said, "Mike, man, listen, have you ever made anyone breathe easier?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Your existence. Has anyone ever breathed easier because you existed?" Well, I'm a teenager. I'm like, I don't know what the hell that means. Right? Like, no, like get away from me. Right? But the scary part when I was 30 and the answer was still no. And
Mhm.
that moment and like that clarity and that thought changed the game for me. Because then it was forget all the stuff, forget doing the things that kept me empty, like making money, opening businesses, starting businesses, doing that stuff. That was cool, like for the exterior stuff, but it wasn't anything for the interior. So I started figuring out like how can I make someone's day? I didn't even know. But you want to know something so sad? This all started. I want to make someone's day easier. It all started by me like doing manners, right? Like I would hold the door for people, right? Like I would get their carts at the grocery store parking lot and be like, "I'll get it for you," right? Like just being nice, right, and being kind. But it made me have this thing I never had before, and it was fulfillment, right? And that made something that's never felt better feel better. That was the interior of me.
Mm.
Money couldn't do it. Possession couldn't do it. Material couldn't do it. So then it was like, how can I get this? How can I get this more? And how can I get this deeper? And that's been a huge turning point for me to figuring out that fulfillment's the key to this of what I was missing.
Nice. Yeah, well said. I used to think, I wanted to play hockey, wanted girls to like me. I wanted to be a bartender, I wanted girls to like me. I started going to the gym because I wanted to be bigger so girls would like me. And then I started to realize, like, when I was super depressed, I'm like, man, it doesn't matter if I have a house. It doesn't matter if I have a nice car. I don't like me. Ain't no amount of money that's gonna change that for me. So what am I doing? Like, I'm trying to work on my exterior, right? I wanted the big house. I wanted a Rover, and I wanted all this stuff, but I wanted it without feeling good on the inside, right? And it took me a while to finally realize, Justin, you're not going to be happy with those materialistic things. So, I really like that
I
though.
mean, we always think like if we get the right car, we'll like us, right? Like, or if we get the right house, we'll like us. And one of the biggest things for me was understanding. So, understanding human behavior is a huge thing, right? And it's all too often our goals that we set goals thinking that when we achieve that goal, we'll feel something certain. And have you ever done something like this? Is gonna be so big, and then you do it, and you're like, I thought it would feel different,
Oh,
better, or more,
yeah.
right? Hell yeah, me too. And if everyone answers that question honestly, they're all going to say yes, right? And here's that's when we figured out that it's not a thing; it's a feeling that we want. So that's a great thing to know because if we know what feeling we want, well, whatever feeling that is, we can get every day, right? We can get every week, we can get every month, and then if we feel that, what does that do for us? The science of momentum tells us that's going to make us do more, get more results, believe we're capable of more, and have more potential. And then that's going to make us go even further, right? And it's like, so rather than use that against us, like happens so often in society, let's make this thing work for us, right?
Mhm.
So it's like one of the exercises I love to do. Bruce Snyder's credit to this is the one two. I'm not very creative when it comes to names, so I'm like I call it 1, 2, 3 because I can remember it easily. And it's so simple. Number one, what goal? What goal do you have that's very meaningful for you to complete? Write that down. A meaningful goal that you have that you want to complete. That's means something to you, right? Cool. Write that down. All right. Number two, what feeling will you get when you complete that goal? Right. And number three, in what time frame can you complete that goal by? Here's the deal. Be very honest with yourself. A lot of people come to me like, I'm going to be a billionaire next month. I'm like, bet. What are you now? And they're like, I have $10 in my account. I'm like, all right, let's set that back down. Let's be 100-aire next month, right? Like let's be
Good air.
realistic, right? Like, yeah, right? Like, let's be realistic, right? And it's like, I love shoddy goals. I love aiming for the stars and the moon and the universe and galaxy. I love aiming for all that. And I do. I have those ultimate goals, I call them, or mountaintops, right? But at first, if that's not visible and then we set ourselves up for that and we don't do it, then we're going to be like, you suck and go back to zero. And I don't
Mhm.
want that to happen. But when you do that exercise, number two is actually your real goal. And then when you know that, then you know that's what I want to have. Then here's the question: how can you do that daily? How can you do that weekly? How can you do that monthly? How can you do that yearly?
Mhm.
Because you'll feel better and do better because of it.
Yeah. Do you one question I would like to add to that one is this: who else would benefit from you achieving that goal?
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's one thing. I'm going to be honest here. I don't like practicing my speech. I don't. I don't. I just went and spoke yesterday, and I had to practice because I hadn't done it in a bit. So I'm practicing and I'm practicing. And one thing that helps me practice is who's going to benefit from me being on point. Who's going to benefit from me delivering this powerful speech to these kids? Right. Yesterday it was to kids. I've done it to adults, but I tell my son that I'm like, these kids benefit from me being on point and me practicing. Well, hey, thank you for so much, man, for coming on the show. I didn't know all of this about you. I followed you on Instagram. I've caught up with you every now and then. I didn't know all this about you, but I really appreciate you coming on. I had a question for you. Is what would you say to that grade 3 kid today? If you had to give that grade 3 you an advice, what would you say to him?
Man, I would probably say something like, the earlier you embrace it, the better life will be.
I like it.
Right? It's for so long I didn't embrace it, right? Like life, everything about it, what was happening, what was going on. And the longer I didn't, the worse it got for me. And that means worse it was for the people around me,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I think, God, if I just did that earlier, the difference in people's lives I could have made, right? For some of the boys I lost, and for some of the people still here, like, listen, um, my mom's a saint. Like, to deal with me as long as she dealt with me. When I beat my last court case at 20, it's pretty much my last court case. I beat that. And the judge said, case dismissed. My mom fell on the ground crying. Me and my boys were celebrating, high five and hugging. We're like, yeah, yeah, right. Like I turn around, my mom's crying on the ground. I'm like, Ma, silly, you don't understand. We won. Right. And no lie, my mom looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, to when? Right. And I was like, dude, I didn't understand that till I got older. The amount of pain that had to be behind that, right? The amount of fear that had to be behind that. That that her thing was, it wasn't Jubilee that I won. It was like, oh my God, this is gonna happen again. Right. And it's like, because that's how much I beat into the system of everyone around me that this was life for me. And it's like, to me, that's heartbreaking. So I just wish I was willing to face and embrace in order to go and grow from, and what would that would have done. So if I was to speak to me then, I would just said embrace and face, man. So you can go and grow.
I really like that, man. Everyone they try to live too fast, and I've been guilty of that too. Like, just go, 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 grind, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. But if you don't embrace what's what's around you, man, you're gonna blink and you're gonna miss it. Anyone that has kids, they're gonna understand that. I didn't. I don't remember much of my kids uh, up until he was 3 years old. I don't remember much of it. I could only see him twice a week for 4 hours at a time per court order, and I was using. And all of a sudden now he's 7, he's turning 8, right? So, embrace life, embrace it and face it. So you are doing a lot of big things now. Uh, Quickly, I want you to tell us what you're up to now. Tell us about the events that you host. If you want to talk about your book a little bit, let us know what you're doing, what you do, who is it for, and then let everybody know where they can find you.
Thank you, brother. Again, thank you for having me on too, man. You do a great job. You made it very easy just to have conversation with you. There was multiple times I forgot we were on the show. So I thought we were just talking, right? We're just chopping it up. So I appreciate you. Um, yeah, I wrote a couple of the worst books ever written. You can find them on Amazon, right? The first one was the worst one. Second one was second worst. Third one was a little better. There's probably a couple in between. Um, Dude, I want to serve the people. I want to make this world better, right? Like those that are here to empower other people, I want to help. Right? I always say we take people's passions and find a way to make profit. So then you can do it more, right? We all know that because everywhere the lights cost, right? So the more we can create from impacting, the more you can impact. But we also know to create something in return, we need to do something outward, which is impact. Um, Dude, I absolutely love our events. We have a men's retreat in November. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but we have a men's retreat in November and February. Um, we have our big conference style event, a couple hundred people in a room in Nashville in March 15th through 17th, where your boy Trent Shelton and my boy, I always say Trent Shelton was part of saving my life, man. I saw a video of his in 2011. And I was just like, yo, this is crazy. Like this dude's speaking to me. Right. And I was so happy. The first time we got him to speak at one of our events was 2019. When I met him, I was just like, they were like, hey, this is the CEO of Unleash You Now. This is this event. And I was like, forget that. I'm Michael Faber and you saved my life. right? Like, and I want you to know that. And that's why it was so important that you're here, right? And we had a great moment together. And Trent Shelton, I will say this: in the years I've been in the space, the people I met in the space, Trent Shelton is one of the realest, best hearts, caring people you'll ever come across. It's not about the money for him. There's a lot of people that are about the money. There's a lot of people that are about a bunch of weird stuff, and they get all kinds of crazy in this space. Like they need their water at a certain temperature. They need a cucumber before they go on. They need a full body massage, weird stuff. I'm like, what? Right? Like, so he is not one of those. I will forever back Trent Shelton and what he is and who he is as a person, as a man, and definitely someone I look up to in this space. But he's there. We're in Nashville at the Gaylord's beautiful resort. We do our events really different. We call them like the Woodstock of personal growth, right? Like it's like we try to go over and above. Like you're gonna leave and feel like you were at some kind of rock concert for a couple of days rather than some kind of entrepreneurial experience. But we don't do events; we do experiences. Um, so definitely, and you can find me on any social media platform, Michael Fabber or the Coach Mike Fabber. And I look forward to meeting any of you. And know this: when I say this, I mean it. My number and my email address are public, and not some random SMS service phone number, not some Google number. The number I pay AT&T for. It's public. And so is my email address, my personal one. You are not alone. I will be honored if you ever give me a call or send me an email or something to talk about something in life or something going on. There won't be a sale. You won't owe me anything. I just want to be there because you're not a burden and you're not alone. And I hope you'll do the same for me if I ever need it. So again, Justin, thank you so much. I appreciate you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You're an inspiration to so many, including me. And I appreciate you letting me spend some time with you and your people.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you so much. Hey, and everybody that's listening, he's not lying. Like, I barely knew this guy, but he knew I was at the Ronald McDonald House. I didn't go out and be like, hey, I'm here. He just saw that I was there, and he reached out, not even knowing me really, and just checked in on me. So if you want to message him, let him know what you thought of this episode. Let him know if you want to attend one of his events, want to purchase one of his awful books, apparently. The worst of the first. But DM him, email him, call him. He will be there to answer. He knows, we know you are not a burden. So don't ever feel like that. If you feel like a burden, just know the people that love you, the people that matter, and even complete strangers want to see you get better. Thank you, everyone who stopped by to listen to my incredible guest, Mr. Michael Fabber, today. Share his amazing story. Please be sure to check him out, give him a follow, or let him know how he impacted you. I will put everything down in the show notes. And if you like this episode, please share it, tag us, give us a review, like it, do all those incredible things. And I want to leave you with one of the best things that I've heard since I've been doing podcasts, but since I've heard, in a long time. If you're struggling, have you made anyone breathe easier? Did I say that right?
Yeah, have you made anyone breathe easier?
Yeah, just ask yourself, have I made anyone breathe easier today? All right, everybody, thank you for listening, and you have a fantastic rest of your day. This is the Stronger You Project.